Okay, this is a Weeden steam engine model number 14 that I got off of eBay a little while ago in completely non-working condition. So I started to fool around with it to see if I could get going, and I think I did pretty good on this thing. When I first got it, it was missing the safety valve. It was missing the whistle. It was missing the sight glass, which is still missing now. I still have to make that. And the top fitting for the sight glass was torn out of the boiler. The crankshaft, or the little crank pulley here, was broken. There was no attachment for the piston. The piston and the slide valve, the attachments were terrible. And the cylinder was bunged up. So what I did first is I took the boiler apart completely and cleaned it and resoldered it. Then I put new fittings on each of the fittings that it had. The original fittings were just distended into the brass boiler and were a bit flimsy, so I machined up brass inserts and soldered them in. And I also added a tank drain. This is not original in any way, shape, or form. So then I got and I repaired the safety valve. The bottom part of the safety valve was still there, but I machined it a little bit with a taper and made a new top for it and added a spring, so that's working fairly well. This is the throttle control, and this is in the stages of being made. I've got it working now, and it's a 1032 screw, stainless steel, but I'm going to add a little thumb wheel to it like the original had, so you can adjust it without a screwdriver. It had I made a whistle for it now and got that all working good. So although that's not original, it works nice. I'm not sure the original one worked great, but it may have. I still have to make the fittings for the sight glass and add the sight glass so you can see the water level in the boiler. And what I did here is I machined up a new pulley for the driving, and I don't know if you can see it, I machined up a new mount for the piston, and actually I made the entire piston with it's got a stainless steel rod now and a nice new brass piston. I reamed the bore out a little bit so the fit was good. Got that all back together, and we painted the base on that and got that all back together. The thing I like about this Weeden engine is there's a little mechanism. This arm drives the valving for the piston, and there's a camming here. And if you spin it one way, I don't know if you can see that this piece isn't moving. If you spin it one way, eventually it'll catch and move. So, and if you spin it back the other way, eventually it'll catch and move. What that is, if you want this machine to run that way, you spin it that way. If you want it to run that way, you spin it that way, and it's because of the cylinder timing. That is just so clever to me, that whoever thought of that. The other thing is it didn't have a burner, so I made this burner. It's quite different from the original Weeden burner, but it holds a good amount of alcohol. And this burner actually holds a lot of water, so it takes a while to fire this thing up, which I'm going to do in a minute and show you how this runs. So I'll come back for the second part of this video. Now, this Weeden machine was made in Massachusetts, and I think it was, I've seen all kind of information on this. I've seen it was made from the 1800s to the 1940s. And from what I can determine, there was a lot of permutations of this thing. But based on, I have the lightweight flywheel, I have the 4-row boiler with no Weeden embossment on it, and a couple other clues. I'm thinking that this machine was probably made in the 30s. So that's as close as I can come to dating this. It's really well made, cast iron base, and it's quite a little toy. So I'm gonna fire this up and So what I've done, I've put the boiler under the framing here and lit the 3-wick boiler, and I've got a good good hot flame. This takes a while to power up because the boiler holds a lot of water, and I'm gonna turn the throttle down to 0 here, just so it doesn't start up. I guess I already did that. Okay. So what happens is when this comes up to steam, the whistle will blow, or you'll be able to blow the whistle. It takes, if you do this cold, it takes probably 5 or 8 minutes for it actually to come up to the power. Now, you can cheat that a little bit by adding hot water to begin with. The thing I got to watch out for on this is, because I don't have the sight glass, I have to pay attention to when this uses up its water, because what happens with these steam engines, they'll last just about forever until you run the boiler out of water, in which case the solder joints melt and the boiler basically explodes. You know, it doesn't, it's not like a bomb, but the seams burst and all the pressure comes shooting out, and it's not great no matter what. So you got to keep an eye on it. That's why I want to get this sight glass going. So, oh, okay, there it is. So we probably have enough steam to get this thing running. So I'm going to open up the the throttle valve and see what happens here. There it is. In this now, I should be able to start it. There it goes. So now it's running clockwise. If you want it to run counterclockwise, you spin it the other direction. The steam exhausts through the port on the front side of the slide valve there. So it runs nice and quiet, nice and smooth. If you're going to open it up, it'll go pretty fast. And what the thing I like about this, it'll go down to a creep and run. I mean, that's really good. So a lot of these little toy engines won't do that. So it's a testament to the design of this thing. I had to play with that whistle. The whistle design is simple in theory, but in order to get it to work, especially at the pressure you want and at the sound you want, you have to play with it a little bit if you don't have a lot of experience building them, which I do not, but I got it to go pretty good now. So I'm just amazed at this thing, how nice and smooth it works, especially with the cast iron base. There's a couple little, it still has a couple little growing pains. The front of the cylinder leaks a little bit, but I'm going to make a gasket for that, and that should solve that. There's 2 black bands that hold the boiler onto the frame. I have them, I just haven't installed them yet because I'm still working on it. The safety valve weeps a little, but I'm not sure that's a real problem. It's probably better that it weeps a little and prevents any kind of boiler issues. And I gotta make the thumb wheel and the sight glass. So all in all, I was pretty happy with the way this thing went, and it's a pretty impressive little toy. And I think it's a toy for big boys, anyhow. It's just run nice and smooth in either direction. That's the other thing that's nice about this. Some of the steam engines you get, they run quite differently in one direction versus the other, especially if you have an oscillating cylinder type steam engine. But this runs pretty much the same in either direction, so that's pretty impressive to me. So thanks for looking at this video.